Hello folks, how are you doing? And I'm going to welcome you now to the industry engagement section, which is focused on global grand challenges. And I'll immediately thank all of our industry partners who have had great patience while we kind of try to catch up slightly. And thanks to Mike and Eugenia for assisting us in continuing the conference. So, without further ado, and not to delay any further, I would like to invite Kevin Boyle, who is the Senior VP of International Segment in Becton Dickinson. I work, and the Bernal Institute work closely with Becton Dickinson through Padraig Fitzgerald. And I will line you up here, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind sharing your content. And you should be good to go.
Thanks, Ray. Let me know if you can see my slides there.
Yeah, you can see it clearly now, yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity here to represent BD at your meeting today. As Ray said, my name is Kevin Boyle. I'm Senior Vice President of Research and Development for the interventional segment in BD. And today I'm going to share with you several exciting updates. And I've been with BD now for 8 years and was 10 years with Medtronic prior to that. 5 of those was in the Medtronic Galway facility. So as you can probably tell, I was born and raised in Galway, Salt Hill specifically, so please don't hold that against me. Okay, try and keep you guys on time here. I'll jump straight into it. So the first slide here will ground you on who BD is, for those of you not familiar. BD is over 120 years old and for a long time has been best known as a medical supplies company, really. With heavy focus on needles and syringes, vacutainers, products like that. But more recently, BD has transformed significantly in recent years and today has annual revenues in excess of $17 billion. We have over 70,000 employees globally, serving more than 190 countries. And I'll get into some of the reasons, around BD's diversity and in terms of the portfolio and how well that's insulated it from market uncertainties throughout the presentation here. And then from an R&D perspective, I'm proud to say that we invest more than $1 billion every year in research and development. And I'll share the impact of that and I'll share, where those investments are being focused. And then the final point I'll make in this slide, as you can see, we're pretty well penetrated as well globally. Where 43% of the revenue that's generated comes from markets that are outside of the US. And as we look to the future, we expect this percentage to continue to rise. Moving on here, so we have strong category leadership positions in core markets that are essential to healthcare. So in fact, about 90% of our revenue comes from categories where we are a leader. And we define category leadership as either being number one or number two in terms of market share and revenue in the spaces we compete. And a category for us, is customer-led, is focused on providing end-to-end solutions for our customers. And it's not just focused on the clinical value, but we also have heavy focus on the economic value too, and involves working not just with the physicians or nurses, but all levels of healthcare providers in the system. And our leadership position, combined with our recurring revenue base, really provides a strong foundation for future growth. And this slide highlights several of the key categories we compete in, and having this category approach to addressing needs in these areas really does create a sustainable competitive advantage for us. Here, our growth is, further empowered by several unique capabilities, including we have a very powerful combination of deep digital capabilities, and we have pretty much unmatched global breadth, scale, and reach. So about 90% of all US hospital inpatients who receive care receive a BD device. So it's a pretty incredible statistic, really. And about 70% of all US acute hospitals have BD connectivity and data platforms installed. So this adds up to really make BD a top strategic partner for most healthcare systems. And COVID has allowed us to further strengthen our relationship with our customers as well. So with a team of about 2,000 software engineers and data scientists, we're able to leverage our connectivity and our data platforms to help enable our customers to drive greater efficiencies and positively impact patient outcomes. And we see connected care as a competitive advantage. And I'd like to share, a couple examples from my businesses, what that looks like. And one business, we recently launched our new interoperable Arctic Sun system for temperature management. So Arctic Sun is a technology used to tightly control a patient's temperature post-stroke with the goal of improving neurological outcomes. And significant time is needed from already very busy nurses to set up and monitor the system and the patient on the previous generation system. And we wanted to have EMR connectivity, electronic medical record connectivity, and to enable data analytics that would inform when action is needed versus requiring constant monitoring. But the team didn't really have those software capabilities in the business. So other businesses in BD had already figured out the technology to enable the updating of the EMRs and the analytics capabilities. And then this team was able to leverage those learnings, which would have been a challenge for the legacy business to have been able to do. Because as you can imagine, trying to set up an infrastructure of how to connect and maintain those electronic medical records and that connectivity requires quite a bit of unique competencies. And having a team of 2,000 engineers who had already figured that out versus trying to build from the ground up, really made that a much easier proposition for us. So we see this as a difficult to replicate model for competitors. And now we have the system live and it's been, extremely successful for us. Same thing is true for another product we have where we've an upcoming launch of a product called Sensica. It's a urine output monitor, which will also go through the standardized BD connectivity and data platform. And similar to the last example, managing urine output is a time-consuming, labor-intensive activity for ICU nurses. Every hour, they need to carefully record fluids in and fluids out. And if there's any issue with low fluid output, it could be signaling acute kidney injury, for example, and rapid intervention is needed. And today, all that is recorded manually. Then that needs to be manually checked by a physician, and perhaps a diuretic gets prescribed, and that all takes time to get administered. And the dosage may or not be effective, and that has to be adjusted. And again, all the while, the patient's kidneys are failing. So having a continuous monitoring system in place provides clear and obvious benefit there. The data platform, as I said, is already established in 70% of the hospitals, lowering the cost entry for us there. And the cost to maintain that platform is also significantly reduced as a benefit for hospitals. And again, the team wouldn't have had the capability to provide that type of solution, but being able to leverage that scale and breadth of BD allows us to provide a meaningful solution that addresses significant unmet clinical needs. So I talked about the breadth of BD and how it's insulated from revenue impacts with COVID. And so we did see some decreases in our businesses as a result of COVID, particularly those that are more interventional and surgical procedures. But we also saw opportunity to fight COVID and grow in other businesses, particularly around areas of diagnosis and even now in supporting vaccines through the manufacturing of needles and syringes. And you'll see a sampling of the products and innovations that make us a vital partner to countries and providers in responding to COVID across the continuum of care, from diagnosis to medication management and drug delivery, and to prevention, as our injection devices are now a crucial component of the global delivery of the global vaccination campaigns underway now around the world. So many of these contributed, of course, to the strength in the quarter as well. That we saw last quarter, where as a result of these innovations that we were able to make and the way we were able to adjust here, we were able to beat expectations on revenue by over $600 million last quarter. So our team here in Limerick, they've been working as well with these teams in collaboration with the US colleagues as soon as the outbreak started on developing software for the new PCR and antigen test platforms. The informatics team have been developing the integrated analytics suite to aid public health authorities learn more about infection patterns in real time and gain more visibility on future outbreaks as they happen. Our infusion teams have also been supporting operations and field support with the deployment of pumps to quickly grow our ICU capacity as well all across Europe. As we look forward, the actions we took to respond to the pandemic are building durable new kit capabilities, partnerships, and collaboration. So, for example, we've established leadership in digitally read and connected rapid testing through our BD Veritor and Synapsys platforms. And we're close to nearly tripling our BD Veritor reader install base globally. And, we continue to have very strong demand, and we expect that, to continue as we move forward here. We've also significantly increased our testing manufacturing capacity. So prior to COVID, we made roughly about 8 million Veritor flu tests on average a year, and maybe 10 million, that might increase even to 12 million tests during a very severe flu season. And we're now making more in a single month than we previously made in an entire year. We planned to be at about 8 million in a month in production, and we're actually at 10 million Veritor tests per month, and we expect that to increase to 12 million by March. So we've also increased our capacity of our BD Max system in tests, our IV sets and syringes as well. And in December, we announced a $1.2 billion capital investment to expand our prefilled syringe manufacturing capacity. And most of that would go towards COVID, but it's also providing opportunities for pharma companies for prefilled syringes as well for other applications. The BD in Ireland has been particularly active on research collaborations, and we're continually seeking opportunities to collaborate further. We have multiple innovation partnerships in progress. We are an industry partner on the EU Horizon 2020, where we were awarded a 2.4 million euro grant from the Innovative Training Network Fund. And then most recently, we are one of the industry partners, along with Moderna, on a program that has been awarded 5 million euro from the Science Foundation Ireland COVID Rapid Response Fund. So this program is being led by Kingston Mills out of Trinity College Dublin. And we continue to add to the multiple Irish Research Council PhD scholarships and the SFI postdoc industry fellowships we currently sponsor as well. So BD's commitment to investment in R&D means the research centre site in Limerick there is always on the lookout for great talent to join our team in a variety of scientific and engineering disciplines. So a little bit of a shameless plug there for the team, if you don't mind. And then moving on here, so I'd like to talk a little bit more about R&D. So we've been increasing our investments and strengthening our pipeline across 3 focused innovation teams that leverage our core strengths. And these categories represent where we're very deliberately and disproportionately investing our R&D spend to move our portfolio mix into higher growth markets. So first, we're applying smart devices, robotics and analytics and AI to improve care processes. I talked about this earlier with some examples around the Arctic Sun temperature management and the Sensica automated urine output that would fit here. Second, we're enabling new care settings to enhance the patient's experience and lower costs. Here, we're heavily focused on moving care to the home and our pharmacy, and we have several R&D programs that are enabling this. And then third is that we're investing to improve diagnosis and treatment of chronic diseases. And we believe that these 3 themes represent a significant opportunity and runway for the company to create powerful, impactful new innovations across all of our businesses. And then, of course, there's COVID, and we see, that may accelerate some of our existing healthcare trends and could present new opportunities for growth. Some of these products have been funded for some time, and some were acquired and have recently received incremental funding from the proceeds from the Veritor testing. So in my opening, I talked about the $1 billion we spend in R&D every year, and here you get a view into some of the new product launches planned for this fiscal year for FY21 that support our growth. And just to highlight a few of them, I know we're running a little bit behind on time here, and there's a lot on this page, so I won't go through everything, but we're continuing to advance our combined flu and COVID assays on both the BD Veritor and MAX systems. As I said, we plan to launch our Sensica automated urine output system very soon, which I've talked about a couple of times. And then we are also planning to launch our new BD Core molecular system with the BD on Clarity HPV assay to enter the high throughput molecular testing market in the US. In addition to these internal investments, we're also very active on the M&A side of things. And last year we acquired 6 companies, and after our first fiscal quarter this year, we have acquired 3 more, and we don't expect that cadence to slow down. This is my final slide. BD has a long-standing commitment and track record of creating positive societal impact through our ESG leadership, so environmental, societal, and corporate governance. And we've made great strides and see that addressing ESG issues such as climate change contribute to the resiliency of our business long term as well. Our 2030 sustainability plan brings into focus the areas which we can make the most impact over the long term. And recently we did announce our climate change targets, where we're committed to reducing Scope 1 and Scope 2 greenhouse gas emissions by 46% by 2030, and to be carbon neutral across direct operations by 2040. And the ESG is closely aligned with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. And at BD, we do view sustainability as a portfolio of complementary initiatives and actions that help us achieve our purpose of advancing the world of health. So we see the modern social environmental challenges our world faces as opportunities to make a difference while also strengthening our company. There is incentive for businesses to engage in these activities. As noted, in the 2017, there was a report by the Better Business, Better World, which estimated that by achievement of these SDGs, it could open up a $12 trillion market opportunity by 2030. I think the numbers are a bit inflated, but the point is there is significant opportunity to incentivize companies to want to take this seriously and dedicate effort to it. So I'll conclude my presentation with just an example of one of the SDGs and the projects that we're working on, bringing it back again to R&D. And there are multiple sustainable development goals, but SDG 9 is focused on industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Just an example of a healthcare center in the Morogoro region of Tanzania. It's staffed by a single midwife, and she's trained to refer patients to the hospital if any complications arise during labor. So if a patient needs to go to the hospital, they'd have to walk from the clinic, which is high up on a hill, to the nearest road, which is about 10 kilometers away, to then catch a public bus for a 40-minute ride to the hospital where the doctors would be available. So clearly, somebody in labor there is not going to be able to undertake a journey like that, and it's kind of a dangerous situation. And instances of prolonged second stage of labor impact approximately 15% of pregnancies worldwide and are among the common causes of maternal and newborn mortality and morbidity. So in such cases, midwives, they need assistance to quickly and safely deliver the baby. And current alternatives for assisted delivery, include forceps and vacuum extractors, which have issues and aren't available in clinics like this anyway. And then the other alternative is C-section, again not feasible in this situation. So that's why BD, in collaboration with the World Health Organization, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and other academia and physicians, is partnering to develop the BD Odon device, which is a new innovation for assisted birth in cases of prolonged or complicated second stages of labor. And we've done quite a bit of work on the development side, and we're ready to start clinical trials here very soon. And if those studies are positive, BD anticipates launching that innovation in markets around the world, not just in third world markets, but we think it could even have broader application than that as well. So it's just a good example of effective collaboration between public and private sector and academia to support sustainable development goals and every woman, every child global strategy that's out there as well, and to help save lives of mothers and newborns, no matter where they're born. So that's it for me. Thank you for your attention, and appreciate the opportunity here to share what we're working on within BD.
Great stuff. Thanks a million, Kevin. And in the interest of time, unfortunately, we don't have time at the moment to do questions. But very interesting to see your upward trajectory in general, and how you are contributing to the SDGs and the global grand challenges facing us. Thanks a million, Kevin. I'm sure there's people clapping in the background as Professor Michael Roscoe had outlined. I will offer to bring in Michael O'Loughlin, who is Vice President of the Research and Development of Urology and Pelvic Health for Boston Scientific. And I will cue up your content. If you can have your microphone on, please, Michael, and I will send you to the live. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ray. And thanks, Kevin. Great presentation. I think you'll see a lot of similarities with Boston Scientific, and for all the Irish folks out there, it's Michale. Everybody else, Michael.
Apologies.
No worries, Ray. No problem.
And if you could actually share, open up in presentation style, if you wouldn't mind, just so it's clearer for the audience to see.
You betcha. All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. And I'm honored to be here again. And I'm incentivized to finish on time because I have an internal meeting at 9 at the top of the hour, so I'll be brief. But yeah, honored to be here as part of the conference, and honored to share a little bit about this company, Boston Scientific, that I've been with for coming up on 19 years. A little bit about myself. I'm from County Clare, originally out the west, Milton Malbay, NUIG graduate, or UCG when I was there, and also UCC for an MBA. Similar to Kevin, Bard, Medtronic back in the day, also a little bit of time in London, a bit of time in Sydney, Australia, and I'm calling you now from just outside Boston in Massachusetts. Lived here since 2006, and I did a 3-year stint in Costa Rica as well. We've 2 big factories down there. So let's get into it. Boston Scientific. So what I'm going to do is share a kind of an overview of the company and kind of what we're all about to begin with, and the reasons why I'm proud to be part of the company. Like a lot of you, sometimes I guess you look at these giant multinational companies and wonder, you know, do they have a heart? Where's their feeling? What are they all about? And hopefully I'll share that with you in the next 10 minutes. That our company particularly has a very, very big heart, and we focus on that, and our employees, our 35,000 employees around the world, bring that to life every single day. And so this slide here is just kind of the super high level in terms of what are we trying to do. We're advancing science for life, so very applicable to this conference in terms of the science being generated around the world, and our role in that is applying that specifically to how do we make patients' lives better. So I'm going to share broad across BSc all of the divisions that we support, and then I'm going to focus specifically on the one that I work in, which is urology, pelvic health. But to begin with, we're dedicated to transforming lives through innovative medical solutions that improve the health around the world, and we have these values at the bottom that are very, very real for all of us as employees every single day. So caring, and that's caring about our patients, caring about each other as employees, meaningful innovation. So for us, the science is great, but it really is meaningful when it's applied, when it can change the life of a patient, your father, your mother, your grandmother, your grandfather, your brother, your sister, your son, your daughter, then it's really meaningful. And so that's where we're focused. We're at the end of the science spectrum here, the application, and we get great satisfaction out of seeing patients' lives improved. High performance is a very high value that we have in the company. We don't want mediocre, we don't want average, we want to be the best, and you saw that in the BD presentation as well. We're category leader pretty much everywhere we apply, and if we're not, we will be very, very shortly. Global collaboration, where we're spread all over the world. We have university relations everywhere with all universities in Ireland, UCG, UL, UCC, Trinity, UCD, and you can duplicate that in the US with the Mayo Clinic here, with the colleges in Boston, in China, in India, all over Europe, South America, India, pretty much everywhere we go. And we're a company that really does believe in diversity. So every dimension you can think of there, LGBTQ, male, female, the different nationalities, minorities. We really think that if you're going to win in the world, you've got to be made up of people who are from the world. You've got to look and sound like the world if you want to win in the world. And then winning spirit as well. That's a very strong value in the company. So just to share the high level stuff, this is kind of how you can look at some of the numbers and a little bit more specific from the last slide. We're helping 30 million patients every year. We're investing over 1 billion in R&D annually, 10 billion in revenue. We've 13,000 products on the go. We're committed to innovation with 85 new products launched annually, and you know, I suppose the culture of the company is to just continually drive that R&D and that science for life. Just a really quick overview of the different divisions in the company. We've got a neurological division which concentrates on chronic pain, super interesting applications here. Spinal cord stimulation are some of the key technologies that we use in that division. We've respiratory, we're looking at asthma, we're looking at lung cancer, urology, pelvic health that I'll go deep in here in a minute, that covers all of those areas. The cardiovascular divisions are very large. We look at blockages in the cardiovascular anatomy, also the electrical problems of the heart with pacemakers, defibrillators. We work on the arrhythmias, valves for failures in the heart, a very big part of Boston Scientific. And then also digestive or endoscopy, as we would call it internally, the stomach, basically, the colon, and everything in between: pancreatic cancer, liver cancer, kidney cancer, gastrointestinal bleeding. Another very big division for us. We make scopes, we make biopsy needles, we make all sorts of different devices there. So to focus on urology, which is my division, we're focused on, and I'll show you in the next slide, the kind of 4 different categories that we're interested in. But it's a very interesting area that's growing every year, and there's a bit of a global shortage of urologists to treat the conditions. We're seeing more and more patients presenting with urological issues, and less physicians choosing urology as their path forward. So what we're seeing is the community really working crazy hours every day, 7 days a week, working through patients, which from a business perspective is kind of great, but from a human perspective and a global perspective, it's a challenge. And for us as scientists and engineers, we've got to figure out how to be more efficient, how to drive efficiency into our solutions, into our technologies, how to treat patients once, how to treat patients quickly and get them through the OR process faster. We're expanding internationally as well. What we see is a lot of the developed markets are the first to use these minimally invasive techniques that we specialize in, and we drive those pretty much everywhere else in the world, including training physicians. You name it, wherever in the world physicians aren't getting the skills to move up the curve in technology. We're there with advanced institutes for learning in collaboration with universities and university hospitals, so that physicians can get those better outcomes for the patients, better outcomes for I suppose the economic side, the insurance side, and the cost of care right around the world. So these are the kind of 4 categories that we have. Stone disease is probably our biggest when we think of kidney stones. And in that category, and I'll show you in the next slide, we have disposable digital scopes that can basically travel to the kidney and see inside, see the stone. We have laser systems that can ablate the stone. So back in the day, kidney stones had to be passed, or you had to operate, cut the patient, get into the kidney, pull out the stone. Very painful, long recovery time. Now it's all about minimally invasive. We get in there with a laser and we ablate the stone. We basically turn it into dust, and you can pass it out pretty much painless, and the stone is gone forever, and we can clear the kidney completely of stones. We do. There's literally thousands of products in that area that help speed things up and get better outcomes for the patient. Then in the center here, you can see men's health, which is a big part of our business, whether that's incontinence or erectile dysfunction. We have many different products there to help patients restore dignity, restore their lives, restore confidence. And these conditions are a lot more prolific than you might imagine, or that we're often comfortable talking about in society. It's part of our mission, I suppose, to be on the side of, taking stigma away from these areas and really driving the care that people need to put them back in good health. And then women's health on the right hand side there, we have lots and lots of products focused at urinary incontinence on the women's side, similar to the male side. Again, areas that many women suffer from right around the world, really high percentages, and folks often don't talk about it. You probably all know somebody in your own family with these conditions. I suppose that the message we try to bring is there are solutions out there, and folks should reach for them. So a little bit getting down into the technology then for the engineers on the call. You can see some of the different products that we have here, and I won't go through a lot of this in the interest of time, but maybe to focus in on AStruM here on the middle one for prostate hyperplasia. This is a device that injects steam into the prostate. So for males, as we get older, unfortunately, our prostate tends to grow. And that can cause some significant issues in terms of voiding, basically urinating, and can be very uncomfortable and cause serious issues. So this device basically can reduce the prostate by injecting steam and basically killing the cells that are in that prostate, reducing the size of it and restoring the ability of the patient to void. It's the only cure in the world for that particular condition. There are a lot of other solutions out there that are mechanical and kind of try to open the passageway for the urine to travel, but nothing that actually treats the disease like AStruM. A really interesting technology that we launched just about 4 years ago now. So I'm kind of coming to the end. 15 minutes really isn't enough, but I wanted to just kind of touch on the global collaborations. The top left photo there has our CEO shaking hands with a physician and business leader at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, which is just one of the collaborations that we have. We have them in Ireland, we have them everywhere, as I mentioned. We have research and development right around the world. I'm based in Massachusetts, as I say, but we have R&D in Clonmel, and shout out to Ray and the team in UL for their support of our team in Clonmel, as well as the Galway and Cork facilities that we have. We also have many business development opportunities with small startups and with universities and with physicians and with academics, driving forward the progress here as we think about advancing science for life. And to wrap it up, just in the last few minutes, this is kind of a little bit of jargon, but the closer you get to this business, the more you realize that specialization plus collaboration really drives that acceleration. So we collaborate right around the world with many different disciplines to get after the unmet needs of patients. What are the things that are still out there that haven't been solved? That's what we're interested in, and how can we be part of that solution. And the Bernal Institute and Boston Scientific have been a great example of that, working on many technological problems for our next gen products in the sites across the Irish BSc network. Thanks again to Ray and the team from Clonmel for inviting me. It's been an honor to be part of the day today. So back to you, Ray.
Thanks a million, Michale. Apologies for missing the Irishness there. And to hear your Clareman is, we'll take that up offline maybe about the hurling and so on. Yeah, and look, also a big shout out again to Sean Cooney and to John O'Rourke in the Clonmel, and to Francis and the guys in Galway. Yeah, the Bernal Institute has been supporting, and as likewise you guys have been supporting us. Thanks a million for that, Michale, and hopefully we get to talk again soon. In the interest of time, I would like to invite Dan Liebholz to speak next. If Dan, you can turn on your screen and share your content, please, and I will load your feed up onto the live event.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, folks in US.
And I will add your content. I just add your content now, and perfect. There you go.
Very good. Well, good morning and good afternoon. I'm responsible for technology strategy at Analog Devices, and I want to just give us a sense of what ADI is and what our some of our strategies and technologies are in some of the particularly challenging areas of sustainability. A bit about ADI. We're about a 55-year-old company headquartered here in Massachusetts, outside of Boston, but we've got very large operations globally, including a large design and semiconductor fabrication center in Limerick, Ireland, and we've had a long and close relationship with UL and the Bernal Institute. We also have large engineering and technology centers in Asia, US, Canada, and Europe, elsewhere in Europe as well, and about 16,000 employees globally. We have a very broad product portfolio covering really any area of electronics where there is a need to connect to the physical world to the virtual world. And so that's done through sensors and data acquisition and measurement ICs, such as analog to digital converters and signal conditioning, as well as processing. And I'll give a little bit more detail and then shift gears. And I list here a bunch of the markets that we're involved in, whether it's technologies for autonomous transportation, such as sensors and processing for radar, for vision systems, electrification, particularly battery charging. I'll talk more about that. 5G and connectivity and the virtualization that we're all experiencing and enjoying today. Digital health, a lot of technologies in both the sensor area for X-ray, MRI, as well as optical sensors, such as those you'd find on clinical and wearable devices. Industrial automation, industrial technologies such as for factory automation and controllers represents, that along with instrumentation represents about half of our business. And then on the consumer side, you'd find some of our technology in portable devices like smartphones, as well as some audio devices. Just a little bit about what we do. Really, our kind of domain is that interface between the physical world, where you would want to have technology to sense the physical phenomena, such as light or sound or vibration or electrical signals in the environment, whether it's RF signals or impedance, and then sensing that and conditioning it and turning it into the data into usable information. So extracting the signal from the noise, if you will, and then applying a lot of our domain knowledge, because a lot of that extraction is very, very domain specific, whether it's extracting signals from a 5G radio, understanding a lot about the noise environment and the signaling environment in RF, which would be very different from extracting the information out of say a bioimpedance sensor. And then moving that data into the cloud, where some of our technologies would do some of the algorithmic maybe prediction or diagnostics in the cloud as well. And so that's the that's the kind of the technology space that we operate in. And our long-term strategy is really predicated on the fact that more and more of this is happening, that there's more and more sensors and intelligence at the edge. And in fact, our view and is backed up by some basic market data that about 10% of enterprise data is generated at the edge, and that's going to grow to about 75% of all enterprise data. So there's just an explosion of sensing and data acquisition and intelligence through sensors and closer to machines, closer to people, closer to automated devices that are in the field. That and more of that intelligence and processing is going to be happening at the edge. And that's really just a kind of a extrapolation from some trends that we've seen, whether it's whether it's connectivity that's gotten a lot better, or processing that's gotten a lot better. And a lot of our sensor systems are much more capable than they were 10, 20 years ago. So I wanted to just give a sense of some of the areas that we're involved in relation to how we think about sustainability in the environment. A lot of our technologies are utilized by customers to solve and address sustainability issues. And I list just here, it's a little bit of a catalog, but I'll point out a couple and then drill down on one or two of them. Certainly in the area of the whole transformation of the transportation industry, and I think beyond that to the power industry, from petrochemical to electrical, and then the knock-on of how that electricity is generated in the first place. But the first order, I think we all see a huge shift from petrochemical to and gas to electrification in EVs, in electric vehicles. And so we've developed a lot of technology to enable that, from the sensing and the and management of the charge in the battery. And I'll talk more about how we think about that over the lifetime of the vehicle and beyond. It's a surprising statistic. There's very significant amount of the world's energy goes into factories and into the actual motors and equipment that drive industrial processes. It's in the tens of percent. And so a lot of our customers are really focused on how do they drive energy efficiency in the underlying technologies that drive actual physical manufacturing. Certainly, intelligent business buildings. There's an awful lot of opportunity to modulate heating, ventilation, and then of course deal with other things that have emerged as important factors in how we manage our spaces, whether it's proximity detection and security, or making sure we've got even the lighting and the and other facilities more flexible and dynamic to save energy. On the communication side, I kind of view communication and virtualization as, at some level, a huge energy saving opportunity. If you think about the amount of gas that we all saved, despite the pandemic, with setting that aside, the amount of energy we save by not physically transporting ourselves but work virtually, it's a huge productivity gain and energy saving net. And that all being said, the actual energy in the networks, I think you've heard about some of the statistics of data centers just sucking down power, and the communication grids being very power hungry. So a lot of our technologies are designed to build much more efficient bandwidth for communications. I talked about electrification. I'll just move on and mention a few areas in health and well-being. Beyond sustainability from an environmental perspective, we've got a pretty big focus on healthcare, and I was really fascinated by the talk earlier this morning, and one of these areas of embedding sensors into these technologies for wound care, embedding technologies for and sensors for mobility, so patients can be more mobile. For example, one of the things that we're working on are some technologies around chronic disease management to reduce the likelihood or the need of hospitalization, particularly for some cardiac conditions. And I think there's this long-term megatrend of aging in place, of monitoring and wellness through high performance, high quality clinical, gathering high quality continuously clinical data, so that so folks can live in their homes instead of in assisted care, and that we can measure and monitor people's health over time rather than episodically. And so that's a mega trend that we are tracking and developing some of this sensor technology. And I guess lastly, to talk about robotics, we've got a really interesting engagement. Actually, we're driving this out of our industry and collaborative space that we've built in our Limerick facility called the Catalyst Center. And this is a kind of a co-creation space between us and our customers, where we actually have a big physical space where we can do some joint engineering projects to try to figure out how our technology might be applied to sort of real world situations that our customers face. So for example, one of the things we're working on in that space is how to build more cognitive safety systems for robots and cobots, so that the robotic, the swing of the arm or the movement of the robot is cognizant of maybe people that might be walking into its space. So think of this as like virtual guardrails or virtual safety systems, so that maybe the robot arm will slow down or will avoid a person that's interfering with the field of movement. And so this is sort of a way to allow robots and people to operate more and cooperate more effectively in a workspace. And we're certainly seeing more use of these automated mobile robots, whether they're in manufacturing or in logistics facilities. So just to drill down a little bit in two areas, the whole space of battery charging. There's actually a lot of technology in these batteries, and it's really important to maximize the performance of the battery, because that performance goes to the range, and in turn, auto OEMs or manufacturers are looking at that trade-off between the size and the power of the battery, the cost, and the what the architecture of the car is. And certainly on top of that, the batteries are really constructed of lots and lots of little cells. And you've probably heard about some corner cases where some electric vehicles have caught fire. These lithium-ion batteries are the fire, you just have to let it burn. You just can't throw water on this thing and put the fire out. So there are very significant safety issues with batteries, and the biggest thing to avoid is this rapid charging beyond the safety limits or rapid discharging. And so there's basically a distributed processing problem of how you measure and monitor tens and tens and tens of these cells that are organized into packs to make sure that you are safely operating within the safety margin, but also squeezing out the maximum range of the car. And so that trade-off is managed through these battery management systems. And we've got a lot of technology in there, and one of the things that we're working on is the knock-on effect. So imagine a world with millions and millions and millions of EVs sold every year. Well, your car might last 10 years, and then the usable life of the car through the whether it just wears out. What do you do with these batteries? And we really don't want to be filling up the landfills with all these batteries. And so what we're looking at is a scheme where we can help measure and monitor the trajectory of the individual cells in terms of their performance and the usable life from when the cell was created in the factory to its entire charging history and operational history in the car, so that we can essentially know whether the individual cells can then be recycled physically, or whether they can actually be put directly into use in a secondary life, such as a storage unit for home storage unit, or a storage unit for grid power. And so essentially this whole life cycle management of the battery is something that comes all the way down to the technology for the measuring and monitoring over time. One other area I wanted to mention is around how do we address, I think, a really critical area of supply of fresh water. We certainly see a diminished supply of fresh water. There are a lot of reasons behind this. It's a multifaceted problem. Desalinization is certainly a technology that is gaining in use. However, I think many of you may be aware it's a massive energy sink, as well as environmental issues, but a massive energy sink. So how do you build more efficient desalinization and as a component to addressing freshwater supply? So one of our technologies is around the measuring and monitoring of these high pressure pumps and drives, and making sure that the operators have a good sense of the efficiency of the individual pumps and can spot failures and do preventative maintenance. And so this is where we connect our sensor technology with some really interesting acoustic technology that we put in the cloud, and then we essentially build kind of a dynamic maintenance system where there's inference at the edge and training in the cloud. And this technology then goes into our customers' enterprise management systems. So that just gives you an example of some of the deeper technologies that we're involved in. And I just wanted to back up and talk about our overall approach to the environment, which is certainly at a company level. We have a goal of neutrality within the next 20 years. In addition, we to these net zero goals, we've signed up to the UN Global Compact. We have a lot of technologies that we're driving for impact for our customers. And so at one level, we certainly want our products, our individual products, to be more power efficient, but really the impact comes from how our products enable our customers and systems to be more sustainable. And just to make sure I'm clear about that, the energy of the battery management IC is relatively small, but it's really the impact of how that IC can be used to build more effective EVs and monitor over the lifetime. That's the kind of impact that we're really driving for. And then finally, beyond the products and the technology, we're looking at how we can help seek some longer term solutions. And one particular example is we're working on developing a consortium around ocean and climate. We see the ocean as the integral, highly integral part of the solution and the consequence of global warming. And so we're looking at how we can advance some of the research there by forming some direct consortia with some leading research institutions. So that's what I have today, and I appreciate the time to address you all, and look forward to a continued relationship with Bernal and UL. And we've got a fabulous team in Ireland that's worked very closely with UL, and we benefited from the students certainly, and the technical collaboration as well. So I'll wrap up and pass this back to Rick.
Great stuff. Thanks a million, Dan, and thanks for giving us your time. I know that you were under pressure there as well, and a big shout out to Mike Morrissey and to Bernal Institute for supporting us today, and for Analog Devices in general for supporting our activities over the year, and our most recent launch of the technology into the first year students so they could do remote labs. On that, I will pass the chair over to Luke van der Wielen. If you can turn on your microphone and your camera, please, Luke, and we will finally I will be in a position to and Luke will be in a position to welcome Marcus after technical difficulties have been solved.
Yeah.